Hello and welcome to this video. My name is FG and I am proud to say that I have been obese free for the past 6 consecutive years. The way I rid myself of obesity and how I maintained the weight loss was by a method that I'm sure you have never heard of before. You claim to have tried everything. Trust me, you haven't. This video is the result of confusion, a lot of testing, a lot of research, and then simply connecting the dots. We will kick off with a simple experiment, introduce you to the tools you already have, dabble a little in chemistry, and then bring everything together to show you how this mysterious method works. You will see with your own eyes the addiction that led you to become obese and keeping you obese. Spoiler alert, it's not food. Before we dive in, and should you pick up this method after you watch the video, let me put forward a few promises. Your food choices and amounts will remain the same. Your physical activity, if any, will also remain the same. No special diet, no omission or inclusion of certain nutrients, no surgery, no medication, and for the love of God, keep genetics out of it. As you know, there are many ways to lose weight. Exercise and/or a healthy, balanced diet are the most popular. But there are those that did lose weight, but only to put it back on again. I was such a person, always trying this and that, until by accident I stumbled over what can only be the cure to obesity. It was an enigma. It was a mystery. Eating the same foods in the same amounts with no exercise involved and still lose weight? It just did not add up. It would be a crime to keep it to myself. I am familiar with the diffusion of innovation theory. Unfortunately, the majority will not adopt a new behavior. But for those of you who will try something new, I promise nothing short of an obese-free life. No matter what you are going through, no matter your size, your age, you are marvelous, you are unique, and your body is incredible. I humbly ask you to grab all that you know about losing weight in general and just park it to one side. Through a completely different dimension, you will rid yourself of obesity, a far cry to the traditional methods. Like I said in the very beginning, you cannot fail. Just to make sure we are all on the same page, I'm going to run through a few terms as they will be repeated several times. Food that makes its way into our mouth is a morsel of food. Once we start to chew and mix with saliva, the morsel of food becomes what we call a bolus, more specifically a mouth bolus. The mouth bolus is swallowed down to reach the stomach and is now called a stomach bolus. After certain chemical reactions, the stomach bolus continues to enter the small intestine and is now called chyme. For simplicity, let's just agree that a digestive juice is any substance or a collection of substances released by a digestive organ to digest food. It is in the interest of every cell that the whole body is in good working order. That makes every cell a stakeholder. The battle with obesity is led by certain stakeholders. When grouped together, they form one major stakeholder. I have identified 6 such major stakeholders. We all have them, and they are fascinating. You would not associate some or maybe all with losing weight, so brace yourselves. We will kick off with a simple experiment, then meet the 6 major stakeholders, dabble a little in chemistry to finally bring everything together and show you this oversimplistic method. Weight loss through a completely different dimension. Welcome to the experiment. Rest assured, no animal or human was harmed in any of the previous experiments. It is pointless to continue watching this video if you don't partake in this experiment. Don't worry, nothing harmful. To proceed, you will need two things. First, a sandwich of any sort, and yourself, preferably in a seated position. The experiment is divided into 3 phases. Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. First phase of the experiment, grab a sandwich, take a bite, chew, and then swallow. You have 50 seconds and your time starts now. Welcome back. That was harmless, yes? Phase 1 of the experiment is complete. Now for the second phase of the experiment, grab that sandwich again. Take a second bite. Chew, but make a mental note on how many times you chew. And then swallow. You have 50 seconds and your time starts now. Welcome back. I trust you counted how many times you chewed that second bite. Obviously, I can't see you, but I have a pretty good idea on how many times you chewed that second bite. Okay, well done. We have completed the second phase of the experiment. Now for the third and final phase of the experiment. Same as before, grab that sandwich again. Take a third bite, but this time you must chew 25 times and swallow. You have 50 seconds and your time starts now. Welcome back. Obviously, I still can't see you, but I have a pretty good idea on how well you did. There was a fourth phase but was scrapped. If you didn't chew 25 times, 50 is out of the question. Well done for completing the experiment. We will refer to the experiment later in the video. You will see with your own eyes how the experiment exposed the addiction, the root cause that made you and keeping you obese. We will now meet the 6 major stakeholders. As I said before, you would never associate some or maybe all of the major stakeholders with losing weight. This is the time to keep an open mind. Major stakeholder number 1. The mastication muscles. Mastication is another name for chewing and is the first step of the mechanical digestion process. The mastication muscles are responsible for the chewing movement. We will not bore you with the names of the individual muscles. We have 4 on each side, a total of 8 mastication muscles. The mastication muscles are the muscles that don't get attention. Very underrated when it comes to weight loss and weight management in general. You can do a search on the mastication muscles, but just to quickly show where they are. The first mastication muscle is a superficial muscle located at the angle of the jaw. The second mastication muscle is also a superficial muscle located in front of the ear and somewhat fans upwards on the side of the head. The third and fourth mastication muscles are deep muscles. Do you know which is the most powerful muscle in the human body? The most powerful muscle in the human body is the masseter muscle, the first mastication muscle. Why do we have the most powerful muscle in the human body involved in mastication? Reflect on it. Among all the various muscle groups, the so-called fat-burning muscles, I believe the mastication muscles have absolute supremacy when it comes to ridding yourself of obesity. The second major stakeholder are the teeth. To point out the obvious, teeth are only found in the mouth and nowhere else in the body. Hence, whatever needs to be crushed and grinded, it can only be done in the mouth. The teeth are simply always in the right place at the right time. The exact site of crushing and grinding of food is between the grinding surfaces of the upper and lower molars and premolars. Major stakeholder number 3 are the salivary glands. Of all the digestive juices, saliva is the first digestive juice to be secreted into the alimentary canal by the salivary glands. And the place of secretion is the mouth and nowhere else in the human body. We have 3 major pairs of salivary glands, or 6 salivary glands, in our mouth, plus hundreds of small salivary ducts. By design and purpose, the salivary glands produce and secrete saliva with every contraction and relaxation of the mastication muscles, or simply keeping the mouth open. The more we open and close our mouth or chew, the more saliva is produced and secreted. A quick side view to show the 3 salivary glands on each side. Major stakeholder number 4 is the tongue. You would never associate the tongue with losing weight, let alone ridding yourself of obesity. The tongue mixes the mouth bolus with the first digested juice, saliva. If it wasn't for the tongue, we would be creatures that had to rely on moving our heads left, right, back and forth to mix the food with saliva. The next time you chew, and for the entire meal, pay attention to the direction of the tip of the tongue. It is non-stop action. I can't think of another muscle so agile. Major stakeholder number 5 are the lymph vessels. They are present in every tissue of the body, with the exception of the human brain, bone marrow, spinal cord, eyeballs, cartilage, and the inner ear. Lymph vessels make up a large component of the lymphatic system. Waste products and toxins released by cells end up in the interstitial tissue and then picked up by the lymph vessels. Lymph fluid is the medium in the lymph vessels. The network of lymph vessels is the reason the lymphatic system is given the nickname of the body's sewage system. This network is enormous. Just like at home, garbage and waste is collected and disposed through a sewage system. Major stakeholder number 6, the intestinal villi. What you see is the intestinal villi. Intestinal villi are tiny finger-like projections that line the entire length of the small intestine. Your intestinal villi absorb nutrients from the incoming chyme. The sight is absolutely breathtaking. The small intestine is a continuation of the stomach and ends at the opening of the large intestine. Anatomically divided into 3 parts, don't worry about the names. In an average adult human, a fully stretched out small intestine is approximately 6 meters in length, or 19.5 feet. It is common knowledge that the intestinal villi, or the small intestine, is where all the absorption takes place. Dealt with the correct instruction, you can eat anything in any amount and your intestinal villi will only absorb the nutrients and amounts that your body requires and reject everything else. I mentioned in the introduction we will dabble a little in chemistry, so it is my pleasure to introduce to you the potential hydrogen scale. The pH scale is simple. On the far left, 0 pH, acidic, and on the far right, pH 14, base. Smack in the middle is pH 7, neutral. An acid is a substance or compound that releases hydrogen ions when in solution. A base has hydroxyl ions. Acids and bases neutralize each other. So, we have acids and bases. The bases can be further divided into 2 categories. The categories are simple. The bases that are soluble are referred to as alkaline, and not soluble and insoluble base remains a base. The term alkali, alkaline, and base will be used interchangeably. So think of all the foods that you have consumed in your life. Are they acidic or are they alkaline? I do love my burgers. It is safe to say that most, if not all, of the foods you have consumed are acidic. Let us look at the various bodily systems through a pH lens. Most body systems are alkaline. Acids are not the bad guys, nor are the bases the good guys. Yes, they do neutralize each other, but every organ, every organic compound, every medium needs to be in balance with respect to acids and bases to grow, to function, to exist. Yes, I have changed. Okay, enough with the mystery on how I rid myself of obesity and how I maintained the weight loss for 6 consecutive years. All that I did was to simply chew my food well. 50 chews per bite to be precise, swallow and repeat. My advice to you as an initial guide is 50 chews per bite of every snack, of every meal, of every day. That's it. For the same food choices and the same amounts. You can stop the video now and just go with my advice, or continue watching the video to understand how this repetitive chewing or chewing well works so damn well. We conducted an experiment, met the 6 major stakeholders, familiarized ourselves with the pH scale and pH of most foods, and we also dabbled in a little chemistry. Now we will pull everything together to see how repetitive chewing will rid you of obesity. When major stakeholders are involved with maximum engagement or repetitive chewing, well, let's see what happens to the mouth bolus. Well, firstly, and thanks to 2 major stakeholders, the mastication muscles, major stakeholder number 1, and the teeth, major stakeholder number 2. With repetitive chewing, the mouth bolus surface area increases, hence exposing more food, liberating the positively charged hydrogen ions. The mastication muscles power the chewing motion. As we know, this process is known as mastication and is the very first stage of digestion. The surface area of the mouth bolus increases from a certain number to infinity. Secondly, and simultaneously, while applying repetitive chewing, major stakeholder number 3, the salivary glands kick in to produce and secrete saliva onto the mouth bolus. Saliva production and secretion into the oral cavity increases from a resting rate to a much greater output production. So, what is the significance of all this saliva? Let's dig a little deeper. What is the pH of saliva? Saliva has a pH of 7.4, a base that is soluble in solution, hence an alkaline substance. Saliva is packed with negatively charged hydroxyl ions. Thirdly, and simultaneously, major stakeholder number 4, the tongue, takes lead and mixes the acidic food rich with positively charged hydrogen ions and saliva, the alkaline substance rich with negatively charged hydroxyl ions. As we learned, majority of foods are acidic, represented here by the positively charged hydrogen ions. We all produce alkaline saliva, represented here by the negative hydroxyl ions. This is the clash. Foods with varying acidity and alkaline saliva are first exposed to each other in the mouth and nowhere else in the body. This is the clash between the positively charged hydrogen ions and the negatively charged hydroxyl ions. With repetitive chewing, we gradually neutralize the acids by using the alkaline saliva. Eventually, with the unrelenting repetitive chewing, saliva gains the upper hand. The whole mouth bolus gradually changes from an acidic state to an alkaline state. The hydroxyl ions overwhelm the hydrogen ions. With repetitive chewing, the mouth bolus starts at a certain pH, acidic, then gradually, with repetitive chewing, becomes alkaline. If you take a bite of, say, a burger, different ingredients with varying acidity, the repetitive chewing, they all eventually fall into line with the pH of saliva. So, initially the mouth bolus starts at a certain pH below 7, then gradually becomes alkaline above 7. Why is it so important to make the mouth bolus alkaline before we swallow? Well, let's look at what nature has to say. What was your first meal as a newborn? What is the first meal of any newborn? Breast milk. From birth and exclusively, breast milk meals go on for months and even years. This is how nature works. What is the pH of breast milk? A pH value of approximately 7.4. Breast milk, a food in an alkaline state. We saw earlier that all foods in their natural state or cooked have a pH of below 7, acidic. Breast milk, on the other hand, has a pH value of above 7, an alkaline. Ever since humans have been reproducing, nature has indeed been telling us something. Most foods, cooked or not, fit for human consumption are over in the acidic camp. Breast milk, a naturally occurring food fit for human consumption, is in the alkaline camp. Now let's refer to the experiment, specifically phase 2. I asked to take a bite, chew, but make a mental note on how many times you chew, and then swallow. Do you remember how many times you chewed? I didn't see you, but I know you didn't chew more than 12 times. From my personal observations in restaurants, gatherings, etc., the average number of chews by overweight and obese people is around 12 chews per bite. I am being generous with the number 12 as I have repeatedly witnessed much less. The mouth bolus starts at a pH of below 7 and gradually becomes alkaline. With 12 chews, the mouth bolus is still acidic. Approximately each chew is 1 second, so all you need to do is a few more seconds of more chewing to complete the transaction that you started. That's it. I was confused as to how on earth could I be eating the same foods in the same amounts and still lose weight. Unintentionally, I converted every mouth bolus from an acidic state to an alkaline state, creating an environment that mimics breast milk pH level of every snack, of every meal, of every day. As a result of all my amateur research, trial and error, and connecting the dots, I was able to resolve my confusion. Now it all makes sense. An alkaline high-quality mouth bolus can contribute to the body alkalinity. Take a wild guess at the optimal pH of lymph vessels, our major stakeholder number 5. A pH of 7 to 10. Remember, the lymph vessels are responsible for removing excess liquid and acidic waste from the interstitial spaces between the cells. The sewage system we spoke about. The network of lymph vessels in the body is enormous. They drain excess liquids and waste. According to several sources, the amount of lymph fluid in the body is twice that of blood. Chewing repetitively has nothing to do with burning fat. It's just about moving the stale liquid waste. Human bodily organs and systems function best in an alkaline environment, and so do the lymph vessels. Newborns take in alkaline food. We adults too can take in food in an alkaline state, but we must chew well. The fourth action of repetitive chewing. Repetitive chewing ensures the integrity of the series. What series? The series of the digestive juices. By ensuring saliva is rightfully placed first in the series, and consequently the mouth bolus, which becomes the stomach bolus and eventually chyme, is exposed to all the remaining digestive juices. We provide the intestinal villi, our major stakeholder number 6, with the correct instruction. Chyme exposed to all the digestive juices. The intestinal villi can now do its job. This nutrient in and this nutrient denied. As with any process in life, digestion is a series of steps. The first digestive juice, saliva, is released in the mouth. The second digestive juice is released in the stomach. Then the liver releases digestive juices. Then the gallbladder releases digestive juices. And finally, the pancreas releases digestive juices. We humans have been given the responsibility of only step 1, saliva. The remaining steps are handled by nature. When we don't chew our food well, saliva in the mouth bolus is absent or in very low concentration. The remaining digestive juices are released. Intestinal villi receive the incorrect instruction. Or, when we don't chew our food well, saliva in the mouth bolus is absent or in very low concentration. The remaining digestive juices are all released in relative to the amount of saliva. Yet again, we provide the intestinal villi with the incorrect instruction. But proper chewing, swallowing only an alkaline mouth bolus, the remaining digestive juices are released in proportion to the saliva in the mouth bolus. The intestinal villi finally receive the correct instruction. This nutrient in and this nutrient denied entry. The experiment revealed the root cause of obesity. It is not your food that causes the problem, but rather your speed, which results in cutting corners. You want to bypass all the required chewing so that the food can reach your stomach as quickly as possible. As a result, the process that the mouth bolus must undergo is simply incomplete. Why do you think I gave you 50 seconds for each of the phases in the experiment? We have prioritized speed over efficiency. You only have to look in the mirror to see the consequences. So, there we have it, the 4 actions of what happens to the mouth bolus during repetitive chewing. Are you convinced with the pH theory or the digestive juices theory? To be honest, you can't have one without the other. It's either all or nothing. When we take a bite and start to repetitively chew the mouth bolus, it's nothing short of an onslaught. A complete bloodbath. No bits of the mouth bolus are left uncrushed. The tongue repositioning bits for further crushing and grinding. Absolutely no mercy. We must be grateful for one feature that we all have. It's the final major stakeholder. Yes, I said there were 6 major stakeholders. Well, there is a 7th. What on earth could it be? A sealed oral cavity is the 7th major stakeholder, which ensures the mouth bolus undergoing repetitive chewing remains contained within the mouth. This video is not about table manners, but chewing food must be done with a closed mouth. The major stakeholders in the mouth collectively trap, rip, crush, secrete, grind, mix with no escape. It is a complete onslaught. Keep no bits of the mouth bolus uncrushed. Show no mercy. Dangerous foods. If we eat food, process the mouth bolus, and raise the pH with saliva, we should be set to succeed. It's all game on, but there are still foods that pose a risk. My dear friend, dangerous foods are liquid foods. With consuming liquids, you no longer use all the major stakeholders in the mouth. The mastication muscles, salivary glands, and teeth are no longer in play. As a result, no ample saliva is produced and secreted. We went from 50 doses of saliva per bite to 0. You only have the resting saliva amount to use with no reinforcements coming. That is why liquid foods are the only dangerous foods. You remember, with solid foods, we chewed and chewed ample amounts of saliva and neutralized the acids. But not with liquids. We don't have a chance. The trick is to take one sip at a time. Swirl around with saliva and swallow. Repeat as necessary. Sipping your liquids is the lesser of 2 evils. When sipping liquids, the tongue and the sealed oral cavity are the only major stakeholders in play. Swirling the liquid to be mixed with whatever saliva you may have. It's a game of ratios. I must bring to your attention one final valuable piece of information regarding the pH scale and why liquid foods are the most dangerous of all foods. The pH scale is logarithmic. In that sense, a change of 1 pH unit corresponds to a 10-fold change in hydrogen ion concentration. The lower the pH, the more hydrogen ions we have in solution, i.e., the more neutralization required. I'll try to sum up the tens and tens and tens of websites on the matter. If you have 1 unit of pH 7, you will need roughly this amount of saliva to counter the acid. It gets interesting as the acids get stronger. If you have 1 unit of pH 6, you will need roughly this amount of saliva to counter the acid. It doesn't get any better. If you have 1 unit of pH 5, and because saliva cannot be a stronger base, so you would need more and more saliva. This is by no means accurate. It is just to give you an idea of how much saliva is required to neutralize the liquids that we drink. Think of all the liquids you have consumed. Don't get me started on sodas. It's not the sugar content, it's not the ingredients. I'm stuck on how much saliva you would need to neutralize. Remember the lymphatic system and the lymph vessels. To move the stale liquid waste, we need an alkaline environment. Breast milk is the only naturally occurring liquid food that is alkaline by nature. No need to sip and no need to neutralize. Newborn, just drink and drink and drink. You recall the experiment. Phase 2. I asked to take a bite, count how many times you chew, and then swallow. We saw earlier that with 12 chews, the mouth bolus is still acidic. But you established your baseline. Let's say you chewed 12 times. Your baseline is then 12. 50 chews per bite of every snack, of every meal, of every day will rid you of obesity, 100%. With simple mathematics, 12 chews divided by 50 chews, we get 24%. No man-made system on earth would tolerate a 24% output. I can draw in millions of examples. I will call out a few. You download an app, 24% in, and you stop the download. The app will simply not work. You put a load in the washing machine on a 1-hour program. If we apply the 24% rule, that means 14 minutes into the cycle you switch off the machine. Is the job done? No. Say a doctor and his team are conducting a surgery. They stop at 24% and they say, look, that's enough. Or you read a book. You read 24% of a book. That's not enough. Or you attend a meeting, 24% into the meeting, you just stand up and leave. Or you go to the movies, 24% into the movie, the staff
switch on the lights and ask everybody to leave. That is not acceptable. So, what you thought was a harmless shortcut is, well, you know the consequences. Raise your standards. Raise your baseline. 50 chews per bite of every snack, of every meal, of every day. That's it. If midway during repetitive chewing the mouth bolus becomes too big, the start was simply incorrect. You must reduce the size of the bite so it can be manageable during repetitive chewing. Believe me, it's not as easy as it sounds. Till this day, I struggle to take smaller bites. You will gradually stop counting and rely on the texture of the mouth bolus. I stopped counting many years ago. In simple terms, your baseline must increase from 12 chews per bite or whatever was your baseline from the experiment, and raise it to become a baseline of 50 chews per bite. That's it.
I trust by now you understand that this video, a few more seconds, our response to obesity, is not about what you eat, nor the amount you eat. Instead, it is all about how you eat. How well do you process the mouth bolus, the repetitive chewing we talked about? As I have advised, an initial guide of 50 chews per bite. It is imperative that you keep your plans to yourself. Don't go around telling everyone what you are up to. People will joke, laugh, and mock you, and you will be derailed. So keep your intentions to yourself. The day has come to start applying this relentless, repetitive chewing. To chew well, you sit down to have your first meal. Grab the sandwich, take a bite, and place the sandwich back on the table or in front of you. Start the onslaught with no mercy and swallow the high-quality alkaline mouth bolus. Repeat as required. The same applies if eating with a utensil. Take the morsel of food into your mouth, then place the utensil back on the plate. Again, with your hands free, let the onslaught commence. This little trick of keeping my hands free in between bites helped me to avoid double biting and to generally focus on the mouth bolus. Repeat for every snack, every meal of every day. That's pretty much it. Children, adolescents, and adults alike must treat mealtime as serious time and is not playtime, and certainly not the time to catch up on the latest gossip. You have to refrain from talking. Remain focused, and you must chew your food as efficiently as possible. If during the day or at night you get the urge to binge eat, fine, but chew the mouth bolus well. With this method, chewing the mouth bolus well, the binge eating term and all the negativity with it is dead. The only change I'm requesting is to raise your baseline from whatever it was during the experiment, 12, 15, 9, up to 50 for the same food and the same amounts. We conducted a simple experiment, and before your eyes we exposed the root cause that made you and keeping you obese. You simply don't chew the mouth bolus enough. We met the major stakeholders. Those would be the mastication muscles, teeth, salivary glands, tongue, lymph vessels, and finally the intestinal villi. I never knew my best friends are with me all the time. It turns out that with our naked eye, we cannot see much of what is happening behind the scenes. So we dabbled a little in chemistry, familiarize ourselves with the pH scale. We learned that the majority of foods in their natural state or cooked have a pH of below 7. They are over in the acidic camp. This is including fruits and vegetables. Plenty of positively charged hydrogen ions. Majority of body organs and systems work best in an alkaline environment. Acids and bases clash and neutralize each other, but with repetitive chewing, the bases get the upper hand. The body wants alkaline food. This is what nature intended for us. Your first meal, my first meal, newborn's first meal, everybody's first meal was breast milk, an alkaline liquid. We all produce alkaline saliva, so we have no excuse. Contributing to the body's alkalinity gets our built-in sewage system moving, the huge network of lymph vessels. We then brought everything together to show how, with repetitive chewing, the mouth bolus goes from a pH of below 7 to above 7. A few more seconds of chewing is all that is needed. The most dangerous foods and only foods that are dangerous are liquid foods, with the exception of breast milk. Liquids must be sipped and not gulped down. We established your baseline and the importance of not cutting corners. Complete the transaction that you started. In other words, raise your baseline to 50 chews per bite. We massacred the term binge eating and all the negativity with it. It's dead. Gone. And finally, how to start. Basically, you just sit down and chew your food well. That's it. We all know how to take a bite from a sandwich. We all chew. All I'm asking is to chew more. Every chew is approximately 1 second. So, a few more seconds of what you are already doing to rid you of obesity. That's it. Do you recall the promises from the introduction? Your food choices and amounts will remain the same. Your physical activity, if any, will also remain the same. No special diet, no medication, no inclusion or exclusion of certain nutrients, no counting calories, no medication, no surgery, and we kept clear of genetics. Did we tick all the boxes? I believe we did. If you find yourself whining and complaining that this method is taking up too much of my time, too much effort, let me share something with you that will calm you down. The human body digests a meal anywhere between 1 to 3 days. For this particular example, let's go for 2 days. 2 days equates to 48 hours. Which in turn also equates to 2,880 minutes. Say a particular meal, you sat down, you chewed it well, that meal took you 15 minutes. Using simple mathematics, 15 divided by 2,880 gives us 0.5. So that meal that your body required 2 days to digest, your effort is 0.5%. No matter how you play with the numbers. Say a meal took you 20 minutes of proper chewing, 3 days to digest that meal, which equates to 4,320 minutes. Again, using simple mathematics, your effort is 0.5%. The body picks up the remaining 99.5%. Can you still whine and complain? This is a good time to share with you what a friend of mine once said. The beginning is the most important part of the work. You actually may know him. He is the famous Greek philosopher, Plato. He's been dead for about 2,500 years. I'm over it. But look at how true the quote is. What is the beginning of digestion? Mastication. The processing of the mouth, bolus. It fits in perfectly. Put your effort into the 0.5% of the work of the very beginning of digestion. And that's it. If some superstar comes along and says, yeah, that's the same as eating slowly. No, completely different outcomes. With eating slowly, the mouth bolus is still at 12 or whatever was your baseline. And the mouth bolus is simply not alkaline. You must apply repetitive chewing. You must chew a few more seconds. That's it. Don't get distracted. 50 chews per bite. The graph I am about to show you is very special to me. I believe it sums up the whole obesity problem and the cure nicely. We have placed the number of chews on the y-axis and placed the number of bites on the x-axis. With us obese people, we consume the burger in 5 bites, and each bite chewed 12 times. Remember, I am being generous with the number of 12. So, the first bite chewed 12 times, the second bite chewed 12 times, the third the same, the fourth the same, and the fifth. 5 bites, each bite is chewed 12 times. What we should be doing is the first bite we chew 50 times, the second bite chewed 50 times, and so on. Is what you should be doing. Let's superimpose the two graphs. Just look at all the work that you are bypassing. You are here. I will shortly see you here. Food has always been and will remain a source of comfort. Just chew the food well. No more arguing with your appetite. No more arm wrestling with your willpower. If you do take up this repetitive chewing well, and I hope you do, 5 to 6 months into it, you will witness something that money can buy. What is it? I won't say. Find out for yourself. Unless I am some freak of nature, every mouth bolus must be chewed well. An initial guide of 50 chews per bite, of every snack, every meal, of every day. Go crazy. On a final note, and I'll be sincere, at first it can be a lonely road, mundane and repetitive, but you know what needs to be done. So, I wish you from the bottom of my heart the best of patience and the best of grit. Regardless of your age and size, the principle is one. You are armed to the teeth, and there can only be one outcome. So I wish you from the bottom of my heart the best of patience and the best of grit. I wish I am with you on this once in a lifetime beautiful journey. Like I said in the very beginning, you cannot fail. Get your resources in order. Let the onslaught begin and have no mercy.